So this is the final video for your Geometry Unit 2A test review. In this video, I am going to be doing number 16 and 18. And I'm not doing 15 because 15 was similar to the previous videos, number 14 that I did with the grouping method. And I'm not doing 17 because it's going to be similar to what we're going to do in number 16. So in 16 here, okay, the first thing, just like I've been saying, you always want to look for is greatest common factor between 3, 7, and 4. There's not a greatest common factor. Then we go, how many terms do I have? There are 3 terms, so that means we have to identify our A, our B, and our C. And we want to create our factor X. So we want to go A times C, so 3 times 4, 12. And we want to put our B value down here, 7. So the question we want to ask ourselves is, what 2 numbers multiply to 12 but add up to 7? So some of the things that we could do to multiply to 12 is, sometimes numbers we're saying things like 6 times 2, 12 times 1, 4 times 3. Then we got to ask ourselves, well, which combination of these 2 numbers are going to add to 7? Well, this adds to 8, this adds to 13, and 7 plus 3, that adds to 7. So my actual numbers are 4 and 3. Now, this is where this is going to be different than the previous problem we did up in 14, because A is now 3. And because A is 3, what we have to do instead is, I'm just rewriting the original, instead of going right to our parentheses, we have to rewrite our trinomial, and we have to make it a 4-term polynomial. Our first term, 3n squared, doesn't change. What we're going to do is take 7n and split it to the 2 parts that we found. So 4n and 3n, and then we drop down our 4. Because now we've created a polynomial that has 4 terms, so we can group our terms, and we can ask ourselves, well, what's the greatest common factor between 3n squared plus 4n? And the answer is, well, they both share an n and 1. So I just pull out the n, divide that away, so 3n plus 4. And then I go here, I have 3n plus 4 here. Well, the only thing I can think of that's the greatest common factor between 3n and 4 is a 1. Well, I actually have to take that 1 out. I have to make sure I show I'm pulling something out. It doesn't actually change the problem. So now I should have 2 parentheses that are exactly the same, which we do. So we have 3n plus 4. And then I'm left with n plus 1. And this is our factored version. Now number 17 is going to follow similar to number 16, just different numbers, but the same process of finding the factor x's and finding the various parts and putting them in and factor by grouping. Now number 18 is the last problem I'm going to do. And 18 is different than everything else because the first thing you start with, just like we talked about before, is greatest common factor. Well, 9 and 25, they don't share a greatest common factor. So then I go, how many terms do I have? Well, there's 2 terms. Well, I have 2 terms, so then the question is, well, if I have 2 terms, is it an a squared minus a b squared? So is there a subtraction? Yes. So if it's a squared minus b squared, that means I have a perfect square in the first part, in the first term, and a perfect square in the second part. Because if that's true, I can just write it as a minus b, a plus b. Now, I get a's and b's from taking the square root of the first term and the square root of the last term. So if I take the square root of the first term, I get 3a. If I take the square root of the last term, I get 5. So this is like saying a minus b. So 3a minus my 5, and then I'm supposed to also do 3a plus my 5. This is a difference of 2 squares. It's definitely one you want to try to recognize. It does pop up. It will be one on your test. Make sure you're studying. Make sure you complete the other ones we haven't done. Tomorrow will be our test. Good luck.